This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I believe that free speech is one of the most important, crucial, fundamental things when it comes to operating in a truly free society. I mean, if you can't openly, freely discuss ideas without the fear of being censored, you're not truly living in a free society. And as someone who launched a platform called Press for Truth almost 20 years ago now, I knew that I was going to be dealing with censorship. And that's why in 2017, I decided to join the website Bitchute as a hedge against some of the censorship that I knew was coming to me in regards to YouTube. And sure enough, YouTube ended up terminating my channel. And I'm very, very glad that I ended up joining Bitchute because it was offering a platform that was going to be more censorship resistant than YouTube. And sure enough, it is, guys. Well, now Bitchute itself is facing some heavy censorship, in particular in the EU, because of the UK's Online Safety Act, which has essentially forced the platform to make the decision. Either violate your users' privacy rights and force, them to censor themselves, or essentially take a hike. And Bitchute has decided, in the interest of free speech and in the interest of standing up for its users, it has decided to exit the UK. And joining me on the line right now is the creator and founder of Bitchute, Vahey. Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here today on Press for Truth. This must have been a difficult decision for you to make. So I want to get into, this Online Safeties Act in the UK and how this all came about. But maybe we could just take a little bit of a step back and start with, why did you start the platform Bitchute in the first place?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It's great to be back on with you again. And we started Bitchute back in 2017. The reasons that you said, because big tech was becoming more censorious, and I really valued the alternative media. I thought it was a great way to set right the wrongs done by the mainstream that I saw at that time, things like the Iraq war that were really badly reported on, that led us into a war. Other things that the mainstream media really did was losing viewer trust at that time. And it continues to lose viewer trust. So I thought it would be a tragedy if the alternative media didn't have a platform where they could report the news, where they could talk about all the things that you couldn't talk about on the mainstream platforms. And that's why Bitchute came about.
Well, that's exactly why I ended up joining as well in 2017. This is going back like 8 years ago now, and I must say it's a good thing I did, because sure enough, the censorship came, and my channel was deleted, and you've been dealing with this censorship battle ever since you've launched the platform. They've been trying to debank you. They've been censoring you on Twitter and Reddit and things like that, and now we've got the Online Safety Act in the UK. So tell us, how did you get to the point of making this difficult decision to stand up for free speech by exiting the UK?
Right, so a bit about the Online Safety Act. It bills itself as a way to make the internet the safest place. But as we all know, safety is a trade-off for freedom. You can have freedom, or you can have safety. You can't have both. So what it's doing is bringing in a lot of regulation around anyone who has to run a platform. So that's whether it's Facebook or X or YouTube or Bitchute, but it's also any user to use a platform on the internet. So if you're someone who has your own blog and you have a comment section in that blog, you will also fall under this regulation. So it's capturing millions of websites, and the regulation is absolutely massive. The guidelines are massive, hundreds of pages that you have to wade through. And even though there's hundreds of pages, actually a lot of it is very ambiguous. It's it tells you things like you will fall under this regulation if your platform is of a significant size in the UK. I think that's the words they use. It doesn't specify what that significant size is. So it's very, authoritarians love laws that are ambiguous because they can apply them to who they like, and they don't have to apply them to platforms that they don't want to. And
Well,
we are already, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
it sounds like, once you get to this to the size of being something that is, significant, to the size of something that maybe has an opportunity and a chance to change the status quo of things that people are discussing, only then are they suggesting that you may be a threat to them. Like it's basically once you become successful enough to challenge the status quo, then you are now on the chopping block, it seems. Like that's pretty wild. And in the UK, this has been a crazy progression. I mean, from what I hear, you can be sent to jail for not just, you know, tweeting something, but for retweeting something that may inspire someone to feel hatred out there. I mean, what the heck is going on in the UK when it comes to free speech? It's insane.
That's a great point, and that's actually something that's covered in this bill as well, in this act. They've brought in new hate speech crimes for UK citizens. So not only is it affecting platforms, it's actually affecting individuals, and hundreds, possibly thousands of people have already been arrested under this new hate speech crime that they've created. And so, some of it seems, completely just alien to anyone who grew up as I did in the UK, because six policemen are turning up to old age pensioners' houses because of something they wrote on Facebook and arresting them. It's crazy. There's all these examples. There's many videos online about people who've been arrested for just having the wrong opinions. And you can imagine now, as a platform, when you're being told by the UK you have to take down illegal content, and you're looking at what that illegal content might be, what these people are actually doing to get arrested. It's very scary, because we're not talking about the old long-standing exceptions to free speech, like if you incite violence. We're talking about causing offence to someone. It's really is that, and offence can only be taken; it can never be given. So anyone can decide what they find offensive, and really we're in that really bad situation where this is the UK now. It's unbelievable.
Well, it almost seems like they're trying to legislate against hate, but unfortunately, that's not how society works, right? That's not how human beings operate. You can't you can't stop the hatred, with censorship, so to speak. So what would you say? I mean, as a platform that has to deal with this, what would you say is the best way to deal with bad information or misinformation or people who are saying things that are just stupid or incorrect? How do you feel the best way to deal with bad info? What is the best way to deal with bad info?
I mean, the best way is more info, to allow people to debate it in the public square, and that's the only way that you have of the only chance you have of coming to some truth. And we've seen this in recent years where there was massive censorship around COVID, and many of the ideas people had about COVID in the early days were considered dangerous misinformation, and now they've turned out to be true. So that's just one example where, if people were allowed access to all of the information, they would have come to the truth faster, and better solutions would have come out rather than what had happened.
True. And imagine, had you have made the decision back then to censor that particular type of content, or at least to ban anybody off of the platform who would talk about that kind of content. Something else that might have started happening was users might start to censor themselves. They might start to self-censor in the interest of not being canceled by the platform itself. I mean, I wonder if anybody ever considers that, that this might alter the way people create their own content, right?
And that absolutely does happen, and there have been studies to prove that does happen. And in the UK, that's even worse because you've got the threat of someone, a police officer, knocking on your door if you post something that you don't like on Facebook. So I can't see any possibility that people won't be self-censoring. Of course, there's always people who are brave enough to get the truth out, to get information out that might eventually be proven to be true. But I expect there's going to be fewer and fewer with these huge penalties and the way that these laws have been implemented. And this might be by design, because governments have had it very cozy for a very long time with the mainstream media. They've had close relationships. They've been able to call the shots and only have to deal with a few operators. But with the internet, that's been completely turned on its head. And now you've got, or you've had for a while, real competition, giving the mainstream media real competition. And you can see that the market share of alternative media just grows and grows while the market share of mainstream continues to shrink.
Yes. Well, I think what's important moving forward is that we have to have more people who are operating these platforms who stand on the foundation of being, remain just having simple integrity and not violating their users' rights. And I really hope this will create some sort of ripple effect. I mean, there are other platforms that are attempting to do similar things. I recently just came across this article, for example, Telegram pledges to exit the market rather than undermining encryption with backdoors. Quote, "We don't trade privacy for market share," says Telegram CEO Pavel Durov. And that's another similar situation, it seems, where you're being forced to make the decision, censor the users or leave. Are you familiar with that case as well?
Yes, and the Online Safety Act also has a provision for backdoor encryption, which is very, very dangerous. I mean, you're giving your information to thieves at that point because backdoors have time and time again been proven to not work. You can't have a secure backdoor. If you've got a backdoor, then it's insecure by definition. So that's very good. I applaud Telegram for doing that. But yeah, backdoor encryption is one part of this law, upping the surveillance on users, requiring IDs to log into websites, and increasing the censorship. And this legislation looks like it's just going to keep growing and growing. So as scary as it is now, the politicians in the UK are already calling for saying that it's not strong enough, that it needs to increase the amount of censorship. So yeah, the UK is really in a dark position right now. And I hope that as we pull out and other companies pull out, that this will get a lot of attention. People will see what's going on. If we had remained and kept our mouths shut, then I think that's what the government, what the regulators would like, because then they can get all this access to information and they can carry out their censorship without people boiling the frog, slowly removing more and more content until people wake up one day and they have no free speech at all.
Yeah. Well, it's an unfortunate yet necessary move that I think you've made. And I'm curious, what does it mean for the UK users of Bitchute? I mean, I assume there's probably a lot of content creators there who are now, wondering what's going to happen to my views, what's going to happen to my channel here. Are they still able to function and operate, or is it completely shut down?
So with our understanding of the regulation, it's written to affect only viewers. So we've done what we think we're I mean, it's quite unclear, but we believe that this is, with our understanding of the regulation, permissible, that we've allowed people who have channels to continue to upload, and people can still create a channel, upload content, but UK people won't be able to see that content. So if you've got a large presence on Bitchute, we didn't want to take that away from someone in the UK
Awesome.
entirely. We want to be able to allow them to reach at least their US, Canadian, and audiences elsewhere.
Fantastic. So UK users will still be able to produce their content. It'll still be viewed all over the world, except for in the UK, right?
Right. And we'll continue to look at ways that we can legally expand how we operate the platform. There may be ways we're using peer-to-peer technology, but that's something that we'll have to investigate further.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they're essentially using potentially the threat of fines. I think I saw in one article upwards of like 10% of your revenue or something like that, if you don't comply or something like that. Is that correct?
It's worse than that. So the fine is up to 10% of your global revenue, or 80 million pounds, which is about 24 million US dollars. So, that's way more than 10% of our revenue.
Yeah.
And you can imagine a bit, we operate very leanly at BitChute. We run the service very leanly. So $24 million would just wipe us out. That's a crazy fine. And any platform, any startup is going to just be completely wiped out by a fine like that. That's insane. And I think they know this. I think they know that platforms are either going to over censor, they're going to over surveil, because they won't want to get these huge fines, or they're just not going to come into existence. I think new platforms today, new people who might be thinking about starting a platform may just think, I won't bother. Or even starting a website with a comment section, they'll probably go set up a Facebook page instead, which I think is what the plan is. What the reason behind this regulation is, to further centralize everyone.
For sure, this has been the way it's been heading, and I know you've been dealing with all this kind of censorship. Last time we spoke, it was because they were, essentially debanking you and making, life very difficult for BitChute when it comes to dealing with your financials, and now they're taking it to that whole next level. So, where do you see this going from here? And is it possible that this could turn into a positive ripple effect, where other platforms see what guys like you, guys with, the Telegram CEO are doing and say, yes, this is the answer, not shutting down speech, but opening it up to more. Is there hope that this could actually turn into something good?
I hope so, and I hope this is all creating a lot of awareness that people can, that they won't forget what free speech is. They'll know that there are platforms still out there that are providing free speech, and even if they can't access it in the UK right now, that will apply more pressure to get that fundamental freedom that we all deserve back. And I hope more platforms walk out. And I would say as well that we've walked out. I also applaud Gab for walking out of the UK. It's still early days, so I'm hopeful others will. But there's also a lot of small platforms that have shut down. One you might be interested in is the hamster portal there was a website that was run by a guy for years just to talk about hamsters. So we're talking about very ordinary content here, pictures of hamsters, not controversial at all. But this shows how it's further centralizing the internet, whereas people might previously have set up a forum and administered it a few hours a week in their spare time. That's no longer possible in the UK now. It really isn't, because these huge expenses, these huge threats of fines, and this massive amount of red tape that's in place just to run something like that it makes it no longer viable.
Yeah, wow. Well, honestly, this is all the more reason that people should be supporting and joining and joining, getting with companies like Bitchute, like yourself, people who are standing up for free speech, people who have the integrity to make the right decision moving forward for their users. So I just want to thank you, on behalf of Bitchute users everywhere for having that integrity to stand up for free speech in the face of censorship. This is what the platform was founded on. This is what it promised to do. And you're living it through. You're carrying out on that promise. So I'm sure some people in the UK may be a little bit upset by this, but I think it was an important move for you to make, and I thank you for making it. Is there anything that viewers can do to help with this situation moving forward? Because I have a lot of people, a lot of viewers on my channel. BitChute's a big platform. You might be able to have people help you out. Is there anything they can do?
Well, I think applying pressure to government, calling your elected official and letting them know the value of free speech and why it's so important is one good thing. And we're actually, for people in the UK, we're collecting emails for people who go to the landing page now. So we're coming up with more ways that people will be able to fight back against this, and then we'll be able to email those out in due course.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for everything you've done for Press for Truth over the years as well. BitChute has actually backed up every single one of my videos that was on YouTube, and then they terminated it, but it's all backed up right there on BitChute, and I'll be there with you, for the long haul. I started in the beginning in 2017, and I'm not going to leave anytime soon. And I hope people will also join the platform and promote it, because this is one of the ones that's not going to censor your free speech, and we have the proof with what you just did there in the UK. So once again, man, thank you so much for taking the time to break this all down for us, and for maintaining that very important and crucial integrity that is important for a free society. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's a pleasure.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.